Okay, good afternoon. Sitting out here on my back porch, going to work on dotting a pair of shoes in a random pattern. These were camel that have been painted Angelus red, and that's had time to dry. So the first thing you do is base coat your shoes. I know Leslie Hampton has done a video on how to do a single color of the shoe. If you want to do it on a shoe the color that it is, you still need to deglaze, and you shouldn't have to touch up the paint on the shoe, but you may want to, just to have an even base coat. I'm doing white dots using the Angelus white, which I've already poured some in a little cup. And then I have a dotting tool. I have no idea what size these dots are. There's a larger one and the smaller one, and the way I do it is I start with the larger one, and I'll start on the toe of the shoe, just randomly dotting. It's artistic. This isn't anywhere near as difficult as trying to make perfect dots. You dip the dotting tool in and just dot the shoe wherever it takes you. The one thing I do try to do is not make a grid pattern. And you can make maybe 3 or 4 dots before you need to recharge, because they start to get smaller as you run out of paint. And then just keep it up on the sides. It's harder to randomize the big dots because you just don't have as much working space. And you do have to be careful, because with this, I have this problem with my shoes where the sides won't stretch completely flat. So just careful when you're dotting in those areas. Sometimes, put them on the rim, just wherever. But I'll do the big dots first. And then, like I said, just come in and fill with little dots wherever you think they should be. If after you start going through you realize that, hey, I want some more big ones, feel free. You can always dot back over the little ones to make them big ones. And again, running into the side of the shoe isn't completely flat, so some of the dots, especially on the side, may not be perfectly round. Stick one, try and not put 3 in a row. You're trying not to make a tic-tac-toe, and it can be kind of hard. So once I've gone around the shoe once, I just look again. Maybe I see a big area like this side. Just put another one. Sometimes I do find that you have to go back over the dots once they dry, because they will, they dry and you can still see some of the base coat underneath them. Take the second shoe, and I work in San Diego, so I'm able to work on my back porch, and it's generally pretty dry here, so paint dries really quickly, which means that generally, at least when painting base coats, dots are a little different, because you do end up with a little kind of puddle in the middle, I guess you want to call it. But base coating, I can generally paint one shoe, paint the second shoe, and then if I need to touch up on the first shoe, I can do that, just because we have a desert climate here. But the nice thing about this is all the dots don't need to be the same size, so it's just kind of random dot how you like. And again, sometimes I find myself getting a little too, that's starting to almost make a zigzag pattern. They look better if they're random. If you start and you end up with a little bit of a pattern, then sometimes, the ones that are off stand out, probably more to, you as the shoe owner than they would to somebody just glancing at your shoes going, hey, cute shoes. That's coming up on the end of phase 1. Let's see, maybe put another big one here, in here, down there. Alright, that one's going to be pretty big. That one kind of got messed up. So we have a dot with character on the shoe now, and that's okay. You just have to embrace the imperfections. That, you know, the nice thing about the randomized shoes is that they're going to be, you know, perfectly imperfect. Some of them may take on a little bit of an oval look depending where you hit the shoe, and, you know, again, you can try and fix that, or you can just embrace it as perfectly imperfect. Get a couple on the upper edge here. Generally do more of the small dots around the edges, but you know, sometimes it's nice to get a bigger one, and it's, you know, okay to do it on the stitching. I think I'm almost happy with this. And that's the end of phase 1. Normally I'd bring a paper towel or something to clean the paint off, but I didn't do that. So I'll just, because this tool is all metal, I'll just clean that off with some nail polish remover later. So go back to the first shoe since it's had a little while to dry, and just be careful picking it up, because you probably can't see it in the video, but there's still, you know, little beads of paint where the dots went. And then again, you know, just dot wherever you want. You know, the first dots will be a little bit bigger, and as you finish up, your dots will get smaller because there's less paint on the tool. You know, I like to get down by the edges, but it's probably not necessary, because that's a part of the shoe that, you know, no one other than you is going to see. And just, you know, keep going. You maybe try and do the first dots in one part of the shoe, and then, you know, come back in as the dots get smaller. And you can use more than just a single dotting tool. I have a whole set, but I just happen to find that this tool works just fine. That it'll make bigger dots, medium dots, smaller, and, you know, they get smaller the longer you go. And get another perfectly imperfect dot in there, but, you know, not going to worry about it. I try and, you know, be more careful with the front of the shoe, because that's what everybody's going to notice. You know, not to say that people aren't going to notice the sides of the back of the shoe, but, you know, the front of the shoe is going to get the most notice, because most people, when they talk to you, are standing in front of you. And just, you know, keep going until you're happy. Working on the far side of the shoe, which, holding it like this, makes it a little bit more difficult for me, but just as long as you go straight in and out with your dotting tool, it should be just fine. And again, you know, let them dry however long it takes in your climate. You know, people that live places with more humidity probably, you know, may have to wait overnight, and it's probably not a bad idea to wait overnight before coming back and checking on your shoe. You know, just take a look at it. various angles. It's just wherever you want to dot. So that's one shoe, and I can already tell that there's going to be some dots that are just, they're going to need to be touched up, and it's okay. You just go back and touch them up. If you don't want them to get bigger, you may want to touch up with a smaller dotting tool. I tend to use this small one even to touch up the big dots, just because it gives you more control to kind of stay between the lines. And really, this is, it's almost kind of relaxing, kind of zen to put dots. I guess one advice is, if you're going to dot on the thread, to make sure you've freshly dipped in paint. As if it's mostly empty, the paint won't really stick to the thread. Clean that one up just a little bit. And, here we go. Just dotting away. I try not to do straight lines, but, it's hard, because there's a part of your mind that likes straights, it likes diagonals, so it may want you to line up some of the dots. And especially working around the edge of the shoe, there's not a lot of room above the stitching on the elastic part, so sometimes you can just come straight down, off to the side, obviously more room in the back. This one's about to become a bigger dot. And I'm sorry if at some point you can't see the dots. If you do make a big enough mistake, you could just paint back over it with your base color. I got a little one there, but I'll probably just leave it since it's on the very back of the shoe. And since these are for me, obviously people who sell shoes want a greater degree of perfection, but again, these are just for me, my Minnie Mouse type shoes. She normally wears yellow. And again, all up to you. You can make them as close together or as far apart as you want. Just whatever looks good to you, and that's the beauty of doing this method of polka dot. I see a spot there looking in the camera. Well, there we go. Random polka dot Tieks. Just, so I may have to come back out later today, tomorrow, touch some of these up, especially some of the smallest ones that it might be easier to actually touch up with a slightly smaller dotting tool, where the dots just don't cover all the way. But that's it. Quick and easy. Rainbow or random polka dot Tieks. You could do this in any color. If you want to do them as rainbow, you could do them rainbow. You could do black on white if you can get a light colored pair of shoes and base them in white. Whatever color suits your fancy. Now I'll just let them dry, touch up the dots, let it dry, seal them, and they'll be ready to go. I prefer to seal with matte. It still preserves some of the shine of the paint. Honestly, I don't find there's a lot of difference in sheen between the matte and the satin. Maybe if you were using one of the Angelus flat paints rather than one of their regular paints, or if you were doing airbrush and you'd mixed your paint with a duller, but I don't airbrush. I just use a regular brush because, you know, I don't know how many of these I'm going to do, and I didn't think that getting an airbrush was worth the investment. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and thank you for watching.